time to give the people what they want. It's Jalen and Jacoby.
He is Jalen Anthony Rose.
What up, dog?
It's Friday.
Yes, indeed.
And I am David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
We're Jalen Jacoby on ESPN2. What do we do?
You look handsome today.
What do we do, Mr.
must
Rose?
Give the people
Yes.
what they want.
There's a lot of discussion today about Patrick Beverley and Lonzo Ball and LeVar Ball and blah, blah, blah. But you know who broke it all down perfectly? Uncle Snoop. Let's listen.
What you think, Snoop?
I think that his father put him in the lion's den with some pork chop drawers on. And he didn't have to work himself up out of it.
That was very accurate. It was succinct. It was entertaining. After the game, Patrick Beverley, who obviously covered Lonzo Ball the entire day, basically said the same thing as Snoop, but in a nicer way. Let's listen to that.
I just have to set the tone, man. I told him out the game, man, due to, all the riffraff, his dad brings, that he's gonna get a lot of people coming at him. He has to be ready for that, and I let him know after the game. But
Jalen, do you think all of the bodaciousness of LeVar Ball will actually really affect Lonzo Ball in the National Basketball Association?
No.
You think it's just like game one and all this focus, but by the time we get to January, no one cares?
All of this is media-driven. The same media that were clamoring for the Lonzo Ball era to begin. Mm-hmm. The Lakers are back. No, they're not.
Not even close.
And while I think he clearly has what it takes to be a productive NBA player, wouldn't be surprised if he made a couple of all-star teams. I like his game. This trajectory of us taking the baton and run it with it like he's coming in the league and being Shaq, Tim Duncan, or LeBron James from day one, that's just not accurate.
But it is not accurate, but don't you think that part of that is a function of his father?
A part of that is a function of his father, but the reason why is, if you notice, like Bundini Brown, for all of you youngsters, you could just Google it. That was Mike Tyson's hype man forever. Lonzo Ball doesn't talk a lot. His father is basically doing the promotions for him. And how about this? Say his father had not said anything about his son.
Okay.
We wouldn't be saying as much about him either.
That's fair, and that's also what Patrick Beverley is trying to say, and what Uncle Snoop is trying to say is that also is going to make it harder on him because of his dad keeping his name in our mouths, and because of we're bigging up this Lonzo experience, like you said, we're all waiting for this Lonzo era that opposing point guards and teams will be focused on shutting him down.
They were going to be focused on shutting down a player that got picked in the lottery anyway, that's standing in front of them, that's a rookie. That's what happens. Oh, I got a rookie tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to bed tonight. I'm going to make sure I get a good night's sleep. I'm about to handle that. And because, again, his father has been very vocal, as you mentioned, he's not. So it's hard to be that way in theory towards him physically when he's not saying anything.
No, and I watched the whole game. It wasn't that bad. Like, it really wasn't that bad. It wasn't like, oh, he completely shut him down and he wasn't functional in an NBA basketball game. Like, it was a bad game, but it didn't seem like, oh, we've ruined Lonzo Ball forever.
And now his father has a rebuttal for Patrick Beverley and who is he, and he doesn't have his own shoe.
Of course. Yeah, blah,
and
blah,
things
blah.
like that. Everybody that's fortunate enough to collect the check to be a professional at something, in this case is basketball, you are somebody.
I'm also kind of putting it on ESPN and other networks that have basically said, hey, LeVar, are you available? LeVar, are you available tomorrow? Come on this show. LeVar, are you available to come on this show? Are you available to come on this show? We've enabled this and we've created this. And somewhere Lonzo Ball is like, I think they are playing harder defense on me because of all of this.
No, you know the theory. Build up to tear down. That's what happened post-game yesterday. That's all. He'll be just fine.
Moving on to Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch was ejected from the Chiefs-Raiders game. We've all seen it by now. There was, the shove, and there was a fight with Marcus Peters. Him and Marcus Peters are very close for a long time, stayed at each other's houses and all this. So he came into the fray, and he was sort of there to calm everything down, to talk to Marcus Peters. And in doing so, he pushed the referee, as you see, very clearly. And then he was ejected from the game, which is natural when you push a referee. That's going to happen. And there were reports that he got dressed, got in his car, and he left. Well, guess what? Didn't get dressed, get in his car, and leave. He stayed in the stands, Bobby Valentine style, and watched the game from the stands. And then, on the way home, him and Marcus Peters took the BART, and they were chanting vulgar things about the Chiefs on the Bay Area Rapid Transit line, which I rode in, which is excellent public transit. So, here we have a night in which he has pushed a ref, broken the rules, snuck back into a stadium, and started a vulgar chant, or engaged in a vulgar chant on public transit, yet he still comes off so likable. What is it about Marshawn Lynch that makes him so lovable?
This is so easy. And what Marshawn Lynch does for public consumption, I promise, I've been trying to do this, and I think it's been successful since 1991.
What's that?
Show that you're vulnerable. You're not perfect. Don't try to act like you live in a glass house. So therefore, when you put this pristine image out there, say like Tiger Woods, now you have people sniffing around trying to say, aha, gotcha, I knew you was a phony. As opposed to Marshawn, I'm just doing me. Do you like it? Cool. If you don't like it, cool.
But it is odd when you look at it. Like if I was an alien that came here and be like, what did he do last night? I'd be like, all right, he pushed a referee, and then he broke the rules and snuck back into the game, and then he took Bay Area Transit home and was chanting a swear word about the opposing team. I'd be like, well, that's not a very nice guy. But when you experience it, you're like, I love Marshawn Lynch. I want to buy 7 Marshawn Lynch jerseys so I can wear one every day of the week.
And when you talk about enable, as we mentioned with LeVar Ball, it's one thing not to speak to the media for as long as he did. But then all of a sudden it became commercial to the point where he started getting paid as an endorser to do the exact same thing. So when you double down on who you are, you do become likable. People accept and appreciate you for being something that everybody called themselves, but they're not. You know the word? Real.
He's real. Can we have him on the show?
Absolutely.
He's on the guest list, right?
I got him on the text.
Text him up. GQ sat down with Joel Embiid. They asked him if he could go back and change anything, if he could give some advice to young Joel Embiid, which is kind of odd because he's about 24. And he replied, quote, I would say, don't ever talk to Rihanna. I got a lot to worry about. Basketball is more important, but yeah, I would say, don't talk to Rihanna. Don't tweet at her. What do you think about that?
He's somebody that is a lovable personality, a terrific player. If he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. As it relates to the Rihanna thing, it was one of those bark up that tree, it will fall on you. It seemed like a cute thing to do, but then you realize that I'm kind of being childish here.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting any play. You look back and say that wasn't.
But it's also like, Joel, you're not playing in the basketball games. You're giving us something to talk about when you tweet at Rihanna. You're keeping your name in our mouths at least. Coming up next on Jalen Jacoby, it has only been a couple games into the NBA season, but we're already noticing some trends. We've got some good news and some bad news for NBA teams and fans after this.
You're fresh today.
Every day, Jalen. Marshawn Lynch, I know you saw this, was being videotaped by a stranger on their phone. They had a little bit of words, and then Marshawn Lynch smacked the phone out of his hands. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move. Let me tell you what the soft move is here. Videotaping someone without their permission.
I knew you were going to go there.
You're not a zoo animal. If you want to go take a picture of Marshawn or videotape, just ask him. And if he says no, then you videotape him. Kobe torched you, you don't like the Lakers. Or because he went
played
to
at Duke. Yeah.
You don't like Brandon Ingram. I root for all people to get paid to play basketball for a really long time. I just don't think the level of player that they need him to be, and I'm talking perennial all-star, when you're drafting a guy that high in purple and gold, is not his trajectory. And You could say, well, he's still a young player.
He is, young man.
Absolutely. But you know one thing about young players that become perennial all-stars? They start young.
They start, exactly. And also, if you look at the rookie deal, it only lasts for so long. And here he is in the second year, not showing too many signs of perennial all-starness thus far. And we say small sample size, but we've seen a lot of Brandon Ingram.
How many games, and I just want to go for some young players on non-playoff teams. So these are young players, anchor of the franchise, but they still play on non-playoff teams. Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid. Before this year, Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins.
Anthony Davis made the playoffs once, but sure.
But you still saw them be great young players.
Yes.
And they still weren't good enough to lift their team to the playoffs.
We weren't wondering if Anthony Davis was great. We weren't wondering if Karl Anthony Towns is great. We are still left wondering if Brandon Ingram is great. But let's move on. We got some good news. Can't all be negative. Everyone predicted that this was the year that Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to break out.
No surprises.
Everyone said it. And guess what? Watch a game or two. Giannis Antetokounmpo is about to break out. He had 37.
For me, I like to project young players and be right. But I don't get rewarded because I'm not a GM or president of a squad. So it's not like I get a chance to see that young player become something of a success, and now I get a chance to go to practice every day and be like I try to tell you guys. But this is one of those guys. What were I calling their squad the day he got picked?
Team futuristic.
Just think about that. This was what year is this for him?
This is third year, I believe.
Correct.
Maybe
And so
fourth. Maybe fourth.
And so, like, of the league players, LeBron James is going to win MVP. The Greek Freak is going to be second.
Ooh.
Remember I told you this. No doubt about it.
I'm not so sure.
No doubt about it. And I'm a voter. I'm already writing it down. I'm already knowing this.
Don't tell them that. They might take your vote away. They might take your vote away.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. To be in the top 20 in all major statistical categories overall, hey, man, the sky's the limit.
Some more bad news. Chris Paul might regret not taking that over $200 million deal from the Clippers that was on the table.
Hit the brakes.
Okay.
It's no might to it.
Ooh.
When you can't finish the first game a win at Golden State, determined, but I guarantee you, and I hate to say this, you know I love CP3.
Of course.
That's my
Who
guy.
doesn't love CP3?
And he's a JRLA
Hanging out
supporter.
with Jay-Z?
Forget
Bob Iger?
Forget Jay-Z. He's a JRLA supporter.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was a JRA supporter.
No question.
A fellow JRA supporter.
No question.
Part of the fraternity.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Whenever he does sign, it won't be for that number again.
5 or 200?
200.
I don't think it'll be for either. Let's move on to some more good news. The good news is for middling teams in the Eastern Conference, the race to lose to the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals is wide open. It's wide open. I can see your Bucks getting in there. I can see the Wizards getting in there. I can see the Raptors getting in there. I can see the Celtics getting in there. It doesn't have this predetermined destiny that it felt like it did before the Gordon Hayward injury.
No surprise. I'm rolling with you on that. Terrible way for Gordon Hayward to start off his career with the Boston Celtics.
It kind of ruined the whole night.
He just, an unfortunate setback, but I'm guaranteeing that's going to be a setup for him to come back and be just as effective as a player. Like I said with Sean Livingston, I said the exact same thing with Paul George, but I agree with you. The East behind the Cavs is clearly wide open because we all know they're winning it. That conference regardless when playoff time comes.
Some bad news for the Timberwolves. If this is the year that you're going to make the leap and you got this new team and get to the playoffs, you can't get beaten like that by the Spurs. The Spurs without Kawhi Leonard.
That's the key. And I'm glad we broached that topic on this program because we had their game that evening. And that's what, to me, the headlines and the rest of the media overlooked, is that the Spurs are still good.
Well, the Spurs are not that good, and they don't have Kawhi Leonard.
Again, let me just say what you're doing. The Spurs are still good.
I disagree.
You just said it. They won without Kawhi Leonard.
I think that's more about the Timberwolves than it is the Spurs.
That's more about the Spurs.
Finally, our final piece of good news, Jalen Rose. I know it's very early in the season, so we don't want to make predetermined, conclusions. But the waves on Countdown look great this season.
Thank you.
The waves on Countdown look excellent. Like, you must have been brushing and putting do-rags on. I don't know what's happening. Look at those waves. And they look so good. By the end of the season, I think that we are going to see some much improved waves. Like, you could surf on those waves. You could surf on those waves. Look at you, Jalen Rose. You really stepped your game up. You know, you gotta add something new every year, the Podfather told me, and you've decided to add waves to your game, and I congratulate you.
Thank you, family. I give all salute and homage to Reggie on the board. Without him, there would be no way.
And for those of you who don't know, it's Reggie Noble, who is our producer of the radio program. Coming up next on Jalen Jacoby, it's time for What We Learned. Welcome back to Jalen Jacoby, Jalen Rose. It is my favorite segment of the week. Why is that?
You're a slacker, and it's the final one.
Time for What We Learned. I love the music on that one.
We have the same
it's
stylist.
Distinguished.
Same outfit.
They put us in suits in the graphic because we never wear suits on the show. First thing we learned, Steph Curry, footman. He's a footman. Aisha Curry was on The Real, and it was live television. They asked her what was the most scandalous picture on her phone, and she showed a picture of her feet, and she said, when Steph needs a little something from me, I send him pictures of my feet.
I love them as a couple.
Power couple.
You know we support those on this show.
Always.
And I appreciate how they continue to open the curtain and bring us in.
But I
Such
think
a beautiful thing.
She brought us in a little too far that time. You know, Steph was like, Aisha, look, you're going to be doing a lot of media, but you can open the curtain, but you can't show backstage. Next thing we learned, Rick Pitino hypebeast. In all of this scandal about illicit payments and lie detectors and Jay Billis interviews and all of that, there's these texts between him and Jim Gatto of him basically asking for some Yeezys. The specific Yeezys that are hard to get. Jim Gatto texts back like, I don't know if I can get those. There's another pair that I can get you. He's like, nah, bro. I need the white Yeezys.
Shout out to Jim Gatto. Appreciate everything you did and continue to do for the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy and your support. With that being said, the disappointing thing about that email trail is that they both spelled Yeezys wrong.
I know. Like, Jim, you should know how to spell Yeezys. Rick, you should know how to spell Yeezys. I don't think there's an apostrophe. Maybe there should be an apostrophe. Let's move on. I don't know how to spell Yeezys either. LeBron James,
the king,
beat Kyrie Irving at hugging. Let's take a look. Now, we all know this hug, but there's the one pat on the head. LeBron goes 2 pats, 3 pats. Kyrie returns pat fire. He gets 2 in there. Final pat from LeBron. Ends 2-4 LeBron James. What do you think about that?
You notice no words were exchanged.
There's a somber moment.
It ended up not being about the return of Kyrie once Gordon Hayward's gruesome injury took place. Because in sports, we use all of these terms that can be attributed to war and battle and combat and things of that nature.
Foxhole, trenches.
It's a sporting event, and they're keeping score, and they're all making millions of dollars to play
millions
basketball.
of dollars, and they're all got trainers on trainers on trainers and high-tech shoes.
And once everybody gets a chance to see what took place to Gordon as he got injured, I think that became bigger than whatever their disagreement was about, and it showed based on the way that they were able to squash it.
LeBron definitely won the hug. Next, don't mess with Bobby Portis. There are reports Lemaritich was the aggressor in some sort of practice. He went after Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis punched him in the face, broke his face. Now he's out. Now Bobby Portis is suspended.
Of course, you want to blame the parties involved, but I blame teams that don't have seasoned veterans on the squad. These are the type of things they're around to stop from happening. These are 2 young players that play the same position. There's going to be friction there. It's a lot of rebound team. Instead of paying rooks and first contract players those roster spots, that's where you need the vets to teach everybody how to be a professional.
Everybody who's about to be in a fight wants to be stopped from that fight. Next, we learned the hamburger helper is filled with a very weird skeleton with bones in it. This is something that was on the internet. People were asking what's inside the hamburger helper. Hamburger helper itself put out a tweet that described what was inside of it. It's a skeleton with 4 arms. It's very confusing, very odd, very poorly handled by Hamburger Helper. I will not be using Hamburger Helper in the future based on this information.
After the OJ trial, I don't look at gloves the same anymore.
I love doing this show with you. I really do. I would never think of that, and that is hilarious. I'm not laughing because I'm so upset with you because that was so funny. Another thing we learned: Chex Mix, I tried to pitch Chex Mix as chips. When Carmelo said he got traded for a bag of chips, I said I wanted to be traded for a bag of Chex Mix. I got clowned by Carrie Champion. Shout out to her for coming on the show. I got clowned by Jalen Rose. It was the worst. Final food-related lesson that we learned this week: In-N-Out is overrated. De'Aaron Fox let everybody know that In-N-Out is overrated. And you know what? I agree. I'm Five Guys all day. Five Guys all day.
What about the burger joint that shows all of the cleavage in the commercials?
Carl's Jr. I've never eaten there in my entire life.
I
It's
like Fat
Arby's.
Burger.
We'll be back
Give me a
on
reason to eat
Monday.
eggs.
You're watching Jalen Jacoby on ESPN 2.